Today, I'm taking the time to talk about my favorite players in the 2023 NFL draft. By no means are these the players who I think are the best in the draft or who I think will go very high in the draft, but I want to start this off with saying that there's a lot of players that get left behind the scenes because we talk about mock drafts and, certain positional values, certain guys aren't fits on certain teams, and you wouldn't pick a position that high just for the fit of that team. So now, I want to talk about some of those guys. And I'm going to start off with my blue chip guys, the guys that everyone pretty much knows or should know if you're following the draft. I think BIJAN Robinson is my favorite player in this draft. Just looking at what he does, he's electric. And I think he gets in the right situation. What I want to say about BIJAN Robinson is I don't think it's a matter of where he goes. I think it's a matter of the situation. And is your team set up to take a running back? Do you have the offensive line? Do you have the defense? Are you ready to go? If you're not ready to go, like we saw with the Giants taking Saquon Barkley, he's so electric that you don't want to ignore the talent, but you weren't ready to go. And now I think a team, even as high, it's a long shot, but I think a team, we start at number 10. With the Philadelphia Eagles, I think that's the highest we may see BIJAN go. And a lot of people won't agree with that philosophy. But seriously looking at it, the Philadelphia Eagles are ready to go. They got an offensive line, they have a quarterback, they have weapons, and you add him into that, I think that's an electric offense. But really the team that I think needs him the most is the Los Angeles Chargers. We talk about Austin Eckler, the rumors around him. Is he going to get traded? What's going to happen with him? I don't think we see another season where he has a Chargers jersey on for the season. So now I want to get into my next guy, and that's Brian Branch. Brian Branch is one of the best players in this draft. Shortcut and sweet. You could say that you don't value the nickel position. You could say that you could call him a safety. I call him a nickel. I understand, he may be labeled as a safety, but I see him as a pure day one coming in playing the nickel. And we talk about the nickel formation. That's basically, the nickel is the new base. I've done many film breakdowns, looked at many teams, and we see nickel. Even the Philadelphia Eagles, San Francisco 49ers, we're playing with 5 defensive backs, and we're usually going to take out that Sam linebacker because we want to get more speed, and this allows us to play a variety of coverages. If we want to play quarters, we got guys out in space who can come up and make tackles. If we want to play man, that's a defensive back at the end of the day, so we can still play man in a situation like that. I think the team that's a beautiful fit for Brian Branch and can use him, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think you really have to be considering Brian Branch. I understand some people are looking at tight end. Some people are looking at offensive line. I think Brian Branch takes you to the next level for that defense. You got Travon Walker. You got Josh Allen, another year with those guys. You still got Devin Lloyd. You still got Chad. You got a defense. And if you really get into another season with those guys being better, who knows? The sky is the limit. Now I want to get into my last blue chip guy. And, DeVon Witherspoon, he's a dog when I watch DeVon Witherspoon. I always said he's one of the guys who I watch him, and he's good, but he's going to tell you that that's the difference. Because we got a lot of these guys are good, and we question their motor. We question, are they going every play? What is the confidence? If they have a bad play, how do they shake back? I don't have none of those questions with DeVon Witherspoon. Even if, hypothetically, if he got burnt for a 50-yard bomb, I'm not worried about him. I'm saying go out there and get him. Show him why you DeVon Witherspoon. Show him why you're the best corner, the best defensive back on an Illinois secondary full of defensive backs. And that's going to take me into this next category, talking about my sleepers. Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown is one of those safeties. I think he can play man coverage. I think he can play zone coverage. And I think he offers you versatility, which is so touted in the league right now. I wouldn't say it's going to a positionless thing, but we want guys who can do multiple things in multiple roles. I think a team that needs a safety, Sidney Brown is your guy. That goes for any team. Around that second round, I don't think he's getting to the third round. I really don't. And if he does get to the third round, it's going to be a very high pick when somebody gets him. Going into my second guy, I got Jack Campbell. And I know what some people feel about Jack Campbell. In 2000 to 2005, Jack Campbell would have been a top 15 pick. But it's just the way today's game is going. I think he's a true, when I say true, I mean truest to the fullest. He's a true middle linebacker. He's not the fastest. He's the biggest, and he's in the middle of the field patrolling, built like a defensive lineman. And I think the combine helped him a little bit because on film, the only thing I questioned was his top speed, was his athleticism. Can he be rangy as a linebacker in the middle of the field? I think he answered some of those questions. We talk about him being 6'5". That's obviously going to be in the passing lanes. And I talk about a fit for a guy like Jack Campbell. I think you probably want to get him in a 3-4 defense. He's one of those middle linebackers, and you also gonna have another guy beside him, a more athletic guy, and then we have those pass rushers off of the edge. I think that's kind of the thing we see with him. And you know, I struggle finding a comparison in today's game for Jack Campbell because it's something, he's like a dinosaur in today's NFL. And that's what you're going to hear a lot when you talk about Jack Campbell. You can go and watch his film. He looks different than any other linebacker we're scouting. And Dayan Henley is another guy I like coming into this draft. Couldn't fit him in there, but I still like him. Going to my third guy on this sleeper list, I got Tank Dell. And you know, you call him Tank Dell, and it's kind of contradictive because he's not the biggest guy, but he's one of the most electric guys, and he plays big because big time games, big time moments, give me the ball and let me work. That's what he does. I mean, he didn't run the fastest 40, and I think some people were turned off by that. I didn't care because I watched him with the pads on. I watched the game speed, and I see a very, very fast guy. Just like Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt didn't run in the 4.2s. He didn't run in the 4.3s, but I see a very fast guy. Of that small percentile, when we talk about guys in the NFL with that top speed, I think he fits into that category. You know, talk about his route running. How can he handle when those bigger corners get their hands on him? I think he'll answer the bell. I think he can get off of that press coverage. He's probably going to be a slot guy. People are projecting him as a special teamer. I see something deeper than that. I see a stud when we're talking about wide receivers. Now, I want to get into my guys, high potential, but a very low floor. And Anthony Richardson. He's the description and the definition of this category. Now, I love Anthony Richardson, and I think it's all about the situation. We've said it again and again, but I just want to say it one more time. I think a team like the Detroit Lions and the Seattle Seahawks, I think that's the perfect situation. I just don't know if we get him into a situation where he has to play year one. And like I said, I don't like making comparisons, but I do want to talk about a situation with the guy, Malik Willis. And I think they're two completely different players. I think while they're both projects, I think Anthony Richardson is a bit more advanced than what Malik Willis was coming out of college and what he was in his rookie season. But I think you put him into a situation, it just wasn't great when he played for the Tennessee Titans in place of Ryan Tannehill. Wasn't a lot of great reads. The offense wasn't opened up for him because, you know, he's going to put the ball in harm's way. The offensive line wasn't that great. It was a bad situation is what I'm getting to. And you see that. You don't want to put Anthony Richardson in a bad situation. I think you put him in a team like Detroit or Seattle, we talking about very high ceiling. Now, another guy, Bryan Bresee. And you kind of struggle when you talk about a guy. I wouldn't necessarily say low floor, but I do think he's one of the guys who I think his ceiling is so high that if he's an average player, it's kind of a failure. Because I know what people are saying about Bryan Bresee. I know what they're saying about the tape from this season, but I talk about the injuries and I talk about the situations that he had off of the field and who's going to excel with those types of things. Now, truly, I think if he gets back to that level, and he showed me he's healthy. So if he gets to a team with a good defensive line coach, you use that versatility, you use that athleticism that's very rare for a guy of his size. I see Bryan Bresee being a game wrecker. I truly see Bryan Bresee being a game wrecker in the interior defensive line. Now, I want to get to my last guy who has a very high ceiling, but we talk about if he's average, it's kind of a failure. Quentin Johnston. I think a lot of people have stopped talking about Quentin Johnston, and it's kind of awkward because he can very well be the first receiver off the board. And I think in a draft class where we don't have as many true X receivers, I mean, you can talk about A.T. Perry, guys of that nature. I really like A.T. Perry too. Shout out to him. But talking about Quentin Johnston, you know, there's just a lot of questions. We say he could either be Kevin White or he could either be DK Metcalf. So we could either be Calvin Johnson or he could be somebody else, you know. And it's like you see that range of the very high ceiling to the very low floor. But I honestly think he's a player in the right situation. These are situational players. They have all the talent and all the tools, but in the right situation, they're going to be dominant. These are my favorite players in the NFL draft. And of course, I couldn't get to everybody, but I got to the guys who I really wanted to talk about. If you want a part 2, just like the video and let me know. If you want a video on strictly guys who I think need the situation to be perfect, or guys who I think are the best blue chip players, or guys who you think are the best sleepers in the draft, I can do that. Just let me know in the comments if you want a video geared to that, or do you like this format in this breakdown where we're talking about my favorite players in different situations, sleeper, situational, blue chip. So this was really good talking point. I want to know what you guys think in the comments, but that's going to do it for today. Don't forget to subscribe. We out.